Good morning. If you'd like to join us in song. There's a wild hope in the wind, her whisper is heard on the breeze. The gale is her shout that is calling us out. There's a wild hope in the wind. Oh God, in the wind, come gather us in. Be our courage and promise. The future is dim, but we want to live into a wild, wild hope. There's a wild hope in the skies. Her gown is the blue of forever. The purple of night is her heart's beauty light. There's a wild hope in the skies. Oh God, in the skies, come open our eyes. Be our courage and promise. The future is dim, but we want to live into a wild, wild hope. There's a wild hope in the earth. Her body provides us with nurture. The dark underground is where life can be found. There's a wild hope in the earth. Oh God, in the earth, come aid a rebirth. Be our courage and promise. The future is dim, but we want to live into a wild, wild hope.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to North Goshen Mennonite. Whether you are here every Sunday or this is your first time joining us, you are a vital part of this community today and for the next hour. As we gather, we hold a space for the fullness of who we are and our gifts, our struggles, and everything in between. Today, we reflect on what it means to live together with both strengths and imperfections, trusting that God weaves it all into something sacred. So to begin, we have, if anyone has any announcements, you can come up forward, up here.
I'm Dina Brissett, and I'm here on behalf of the Fellowship Commission. What is happening Wednesday evening? Thanksgiving community meal. And what time do we hope to start eating? 6. So turkeys need to be here by 5, and the rest of the food should be here by 5:45. If you don't know what you're bringing, talk to Ruth Ann and she'll tell you. And if there's anyone that can come Tuesday night at 7 to help set up tables and chairs, let me know. We'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Good morning, this is Robert Morillo. Just an announcement that main group was suspended last Thursday, and we're gonna try this Thursday. So everybody is welcome, not only the 6 that show up every Thursday. We got room for more than 6 people, so it will be in my house. We send the email out with the address again. And also, on Friday, I just had a text from my wife back there. There will be a mass funeral service for Reina, and it will be everybody's welcome. Sorry. Let me read it right. And her mom, she extended the welcoming to everybody from here to ascend to Reina Mass. It will be Friday, the 22nd at noon, and will be at St. John's Catholic Church in Goshen. If you have any question, please see Aaron back there. Thank you.
And if you have a bulletin, there are a few more things going on this week and soon. So Tuesday, 9 a.m., Women's Bible Study at Greencroft. And the insert, if you see, there's lots going on. There are specific dates on the back, but we have also having some little presentation for all of us, and hopefully you all can be part of it as well. Another one, I have an announcement from Sumilda is here today, and she has as well some more tamales from Honduras. She is selling them $5 each. If you would love some, she'll be outside with the tamales. She is trying to recaudar fondos. Why am I blinking in English? Raise funds, yes, raising funds for immigration paperwork that they're very close for residency papers. And so if you would like some, she's outside. If you don't have money and would still like some, maybe you can give throughout the week money, putting the money in the mailbox under Isaete's mailbox, and then Isaete will give the money to her. And if you have questions, let Isaete or Zumilda know as well afterward. And just again, take a look. There's a lot to read here. Information even going all the way till February if you're looking ahead that far as well. Yes, I did forget. All right, our prayer for peace. Each week, we light our candle. And we give thanks. God of peace, we come before you in this turbulent time, holding the weight of uncertainty and the fears that stir in our hearts and in the hearts of many around us. We know you are present even when the world feels unsteady, and we ask for your comfort and strength to carry us through. We pray for the people of Palestine, Ukraine, and all places torn apart by violence and unrest. May your justice roll down like waters, and your peace take root where there is division and suffering. Guide us, O God, to be instruments of your peace, to speak truth with love, and to care for one another in this fragile time. Help us to hold one another tenderly, to see hope even in the shadows, and to trust that your Spirit is still moving among us, bringing light and healing. Amen. And for a call to worship. If you would like to read together, we can read it together. And we only have it in English. Sorry. Come, let us gather in the presence of God, overruling both selves, our joys, our sorrows, our hopes, and our imperfections. Here we are reminded that, like a field of wheat and weeds, we are held together by God's grace, each of us necessary to the beauty of this community.
If you're able, I invite you to stand. In the bulb there is a flower, in the seed an apple tree, in cocoons a hidden promise, butterflies will soon be free. In the cold and snow of winter, there's a song that waits to be unrevealed until its season, something God alone can see. There's a song in every silence, seeking word and melody. There's a dawn in every darkness, bringing hope to you and me. From the past will come the future, what it holds a mystery, unrevealed until its season, only God alone can see. In our end is our beginning, in our time infinity, in our doubt there is believing, in our life eternity. In our death, a resurrection, at the last a victory, unrevealed until its season, something God alone can see. La paz de la tierra es contigo, la paz de los cielos también. La paz de los ríos es contigo, la paz de los mares también. La paz profunda cayendo sobre ti. La paz profunda creciendo en ti. The peace of the earth be with you, the peace of the heavens too. The peace of the rivers be with you, the peace of the oceans. Deep peace falling over you. God's peace growing in you.
Ushers may come forward, and just a reminder, if there are any children, you may also walk to help with coins for My Coins Count. And afterward, then children can walk quietly to the back for Children's Church downstairs. Generous God, we bring our offerings to you. Gifts, our resources, our time, our prayers, our hearts. May we all give in whatever form be used to build a community rooted in love and grace. Bless these offerings to nourish the needs among us and extend your peace beyond us. In gratitude, we give freely, trusting in your abundance. Amen.
Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from the word. Sweet the rain's new fall, sunlit from heaven, like the first dew fall on the first grass. Praise for the sweetness of the wet garden, sprung in completeness where God's feet pass. Mine is the sunlight, mine is the morning, born of the one light, Eden's soft play. Praise with elation, praise every morning, God's recreation of the new day. Good morning. I'll be reading Matthew 13, 24 to 30. Here is another story Jesus told. The kingdom of heaven is like a farmer who planted good seed in his field. But that night, as the workers slept, his enemy came and planted weeds among the wheat, and then slipped away. When the crop began to grow and produce grain, the weeds also grew. The farmer's workers went to him and said, "Sir, the field where you planted the good seed is full of weeds. Where did they come from?" "An enemy has done this," the farmer exclaimed. "Should we pull out the weeds?" they asked. "No," he replied. "You'll uproot the wheat if you do. Let both grow together until harvest. Then I will tell the harvesters to sort out the weeds, tie them into bundles, and burn them, and to put the wheat in the barn."
La escritura en esta mañana está en el Evangelio de Mateo, capítulo 13, versos 24 al 30. Jesús contó una parábola. El reino de los cielos es como un hombre que sembró buena semilla en su campo. Pero mientras todos dormían, llegó su enemigo y sembró mala hierba entre el trigo y se fue. Cuando brotó el trigo y se formó la espiga, apareció también la mala hierba. Los siervos fueron al dueño y le dijeron: "Señor, ¿no sembró usted buena semilla en su campo? Entonces, ¿de dónde salió la mala hierba?" "Esto es obra del enemigo", respondió. Le preguntaron los siervos: "¿Quiere usted que vayamos a arrancarla?" "No", contestó. "No sea que al arrancar la mala hierba, arranquen con ella el trigo. Dejen que crezcan juntos hasta la cosecha. Entonces diré a los segadores: recojan primero la mala hierba y átenla en manojos para quemarla. Después recojan el trigo y guárdenlo en mi granero." Amén.
So here is this story that
Jesus tells that refuses to let us breathe easy. It goes like this. A farmer plants good seed in a wide open field. There's hope and intention in this act, the way that there always is when we scatter seeds. But then, under the cover of night, a shadowy figure sneaks in and sows weeds among the wheat. It is a deliberate act of sabotage. The farmer wakes up to find that what began as a vision for abundance has turned into a mess. Soon the farmhands come running, pointing at the tangled mess of a field. "Do you want us to pull the weeds?" they ask, eager to clean it up. There's something so human in this impulse. We want to yank out the chaos and set things right. But the farmer surprises them. "No," he says, "if you pull the weeds out now, you'll uproot the wheat as well. Let them grow together until the harvest." I imagine a long, awkward silence after that. I picture the farmhands glancing at each other, wondering if they heard him correctly. Let the weeds and wheat grow together? Is he serious? To the farmhands, and let's be honest, to most of us, this sounds like bad farming advice. But as always, Jesus is up to something much deeper. This parable isn't about agricultural techniques. It's about how we live in community, how we resist the impulse to sanitize, to control, and to judge. It's about how we learn to see the messy, tangled parts of our lives as places that God is at work. And there's a reason that this parable hits so hard. I think it's because it touches on our very human need, our tendency to judge and control and draw those lines in the sand. We crave order. And when things get messy, our instinct is to step in, to separate the good from the bad, the wheat from the weeds. But Jesus, as he often does, flips our expectations upside down. He offers this story not just as a clever twist, but as a window into the nature of God's kingdom, a place where patience and grace and trust in God's timing takes center stage. When the author of Matthew wrote down these words, he was speaking to a community that was struggling to stay faithful to Jesus' teachings while navigating the harsh realities of life under Roman rule. It was a messy time, filled with conflict and competing beliefs and the ever-present threat of imperial power. To hear Jesus' words about letting the weeds and wheat grow together must have felt like both a relief and a challenge. It was the reminder that God's ways are not our ways, that the kingdom of heaven is built not on domination or purity, but on radical patience, nonviolence, and an openness to God's transformative work. Think about it. In this story, the farmer's decision to let the weeds and wheat grow together is maddeningly patient. Here we go. It's the kind of patience that we don't often have for ourselves, much less for other people. We live in a world that craves neatness and control, a world that loves quick fixes and clean separations. But here, Jesus is asking us to trust that God's timing is different. The farmer knows that yanking out the weeds too soon would mean tearing up the wheat instead. The roots are tangled, the good and the bad are intertwined.
And this can be hard for us. We're used to sorting people into categories, right and wrong, good and bad, belonging and not belonging. And we do this to ourselves too. We make mental lists of our flaws and decide which parts of ourselves need to be weeded before we are worthy of love. But Jesus' parable calls us to a different way of seeing. It asks us to hold off on judgment, to let the messy parts of ourselves and our communities grow, trusting that God is doing something beneath the surface that we can't see. And as a community, we know what it's like to live in this tension. North Goshen Mennonite Church is not a place of pristine perfection. It's a gathering of cradle Mennonites and Latin American families and folks who carry their scars and their stories to the table. We bring our joys and our brokenness, our hopes and our disappointments. And sometimes, if we're honest, it can be messy. There are moments when we would love to weed out what makes things difficult. We want clean lines, pure intentions, clear resolutions. But Jesus' words stop us in our tracks. Let them grow together. This doesn't mean we ignore harm or sweep conflict under the rug. It doesn't mean we pretend that everything is fine when it isn't. But it does mean that transformation often happens slowly, in a way that challenges our desire for quick fixes. God's work is messy and complicated, and it often takes root in the very places that we would rather avoid. As a transitional pastor, I sometimes walk with congregations who are caught up in the weeds. Not long ago, I worked with a congregation who was navigating deep conflict over how and even if to create a statement of welcome. Accusations would fly like arrows at congregational meetings. Mistrust filled the air. And it would have been easy, tempting even, to identify the problem people and show them the door. But the parable of the weeds and wheat whispers, not so fast. There is more going on here. And so this congregation leaned into the discomfort, listening deeply and staying present, even when it was super uncomfortable. And healing didn't come overnight, but over time, growth emerged from the mess. And that's how it often is. God's Spirit works in the tangled fields. The farmhand's desire to pull the weeds resonates with our impulse to want to sanitize the world around us. We want to remove what we see as wrong to protect what is good. But the farmer resists this impulse. There's a grace in his refusal, a recognition that life is more complicated than we would like to admit. Each of us carries both weeds and wheat within ourselves. Each of us is a mix of beauty and brokenness. In the Anabaptist tradition, we are committed to nonviolence and restorative justice. This parable challenges us to live that out, not just in theory, but in the messy realities of community life. It calls us to resist the urge to judge too quickly, to hold space for things that are complex, and to trust that God's work is unfolding in ways that we cannot yet see. And this doesn't mean passivity. It means engagement, a kind of radical patience that keeps showing up even when things are hard. And sometimes all we can do is laugh at the absurdity of it. Imagine those farmhands standing knee-deep in the weeds, wondering if this farmer has lost his mind. It's a reminder that living this out isn't always easy. It can feel counterintuitive and even foolish. But God's way often looks like foolishness to the world. The farmer's patience isn't weakness. It is a radical act of trust in God's redemptive power. The parable also mentions an enemy who sows the weed seeds. This detail acknowledges that real harm and opposition exist in the world. But the farmer's response is striking. He doesn't engage in a battle of vengeance. He doesn't let the enemy's sabotage dictate his reaction. Instead, he focuses on nurturing what is good, trusting that God is holding what comes next. This is a profound reminder for us as imitators of Jesus. We are called to resist evil not with violence or exclusion, but with a love that holds space for transformation. At its heart, this parable is about how we live together as God's people. It's about how we choose to see one another. We're not problems that need to be solved or imperfections to be polished away, but as beloved children of God. It's about practicing patience and grace, even when it stretches us thin. True community isn't built by scrubbing away every rough edge. It's built by weaving those imperfections into the fabric of who we are and trusting that God is working in the mess. The farmer's words, "Let them grow together," are both a challenge and a promise. They challenge us to let go of our desire for control and to trust in God's timing. They promise that God's work isn't finished, that transformation is possible, even in the most tangled fields. So here we are, living in the messy middle. Wheat and weeds and hope and hurt and grace and grit. And as we think about what it means to live this out in our daily lives, we are blessed to hear from members of our own community most weeks. Those people who embody the challenge and beauty of our journey together. Today, Daisy will share some of her experiences as a mother and a teacher and a person of faith navigating the complexities of life. She brings her own stories of tending both weeds and wheat with patience and with hope. Daisy, if you want to come up. So when I first talked to Daisy about being part of the conversation this morning, I recognized that she was also the worship leader. And I said, if you don't want to do both, I would completely understand, but I'd be glad to find a different worship leader because I'd really like to talk to you today. So thank you, Daisy. So, as a teacher, you work every day with students who are growing and learning in different ways. How do you help them keep feeling valued, even when they make mistakes or they struggle?
So many of them struggle in kindergarten. We have like half of them that don't come with any educational experience. So we have highs and lows. And so for those that are really low, yes, we have to help a lot. And then I also think of we learn how, as teachers, we learn how each students may react. And so thinking of students that don't get to win or weren't picked, now we know after maybe 2 days, oh, that's the one that cries as soon as he doesn't get picked. So we have to plan ahead and think, how are we going to help minimize those reactions. And so thinking of how can I give feedback so that it's positive and they are learning and growing so that they eventually know that it's okay to lose in the game we're going to play probably every week. So those are kinds of things. I also think of feedback when I want to let parents know. I can't just email or message every single parent. So sometimes I write notes on their work or on a test, but I also want the students to know, like, this is where you have to work on these things. And so I don't use red. Heard someone say, like, yeah, I never use red. And someone says, why not? Yeah. So I use orange and blues and purples. And they asked me, what are you writing? I said, just to keep working. And I put a smiley face on their paper, but it says, please keep working on counting 1 to 1 so that they can actually know how many there are and select the correct number. So just things of, yeah, how to help and yeah, just helping through the mistakes. If they make mistakes, how can I help them understand it's okay to have mistakes, but don't break down.
Well, for those who don't know, what grade do you teach and what school are you?
Kindergarten. I've taught 13 years at Chandler and Waterford. So I'm at Waterford now.
In a classroom, you sometimes see both strengths and challenges in students. Can you share a story or an example of a time when you saw something beautiful come from a difficult situation or student?
And I was trying to think, I'm sure there are so many. And I can think of, like, in general, thinking of, we have those struggling students. We have had students who don't speak. They choose not to speak in school or with us, but at home they speak fine. So other students take on that role of helpers, and in recess, they take their hand, or they're just seeing little 5-year-olds help another 5-year-old is really nice and just great to see. Lots of smiles. But I also think of one student, and this is more academic, and it was almost the entire year, and this boy kept struggling with reading or just sounds and putting them together, and I remember it was all the time frustration. And then I remember it was the end of the year because it was sunny, bright, and it was small group time, and I had 3 students, and it was his turn, and we finally kept trying, and we put consonant, vowel, consonant together, and he did it. And I still remember his face. I don't remember his name, but I remember his face and the big smile after I said, you did it. And he was just like, and he wanted another one, and then another one. And I just remember he was so excited that he finally was able to read a 3-letter word until May. But it was great, yes.
Teaching can be a lot like tending a garden, where each child has their own strengths and struggles. How do you practice patience with your students, especially when things don't go as you plan?
And this, so I think of, so like in the students that struggle, how do we help them feel successful even at their own level? Thinking, okay, well, I mean, I'm thinking of very, 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 like 2 students maybe in the entire, out of the 52 students, we have 26 in one class, 26 in the other. So those kids, I think, okay, well, I need to help them feel successful, even though I know they might need maybe something more than what we can give them in the general class. So thinking of giving them that feel, successful, like you've reached a different kind of goal for you, helping them feel successful. Oh, and I also had in mind being positive. I think of students that break down so easily. And ever since I started teaching with Aaron, I remember this book came about, and I read it every year, and now they have more. And I'll read a couple of pages, but it says, if nothing goes as you plan, oh, you didn't color or cut how you wanted to, and now you're crying. And I have this as a poster, and it's one of our 5 ways of the school, like responsible, respectful, gratitude. So for gratitude, I have a picture of Pete. This is Pete the cat. And when they're crying, like, oh, but did Pete cry? And everyone says, no, goodness, no. He kept walking along and singing his song. And so even though he may step in a puddle of strawberries, what color did his shoes turn? Red. Did Pete cry? Oh, no, he kept walking along and singing his song. And then we sing, I love my red shoes. I love, and so he keeps on going. Purple pile of blueberries. Did Pete cry? No. And then there, it's raining. Did Pete cry? No. The mud. Did Pete cry? So then at the end, the bucket of water, and all the red and blue and brown wash away. But now his shoes are wet. And did Pete cry? No. And so he keeps on going along singing his song. So being positive. So I always bring out, did Pete cry? No, stop crying. Just let's go. Keep going. So.
Now, you're a teacher, but you're also a mother. And how do you encourage your own children to be accepting of themselves and others, especially when they or their friends show imperfections?
And I think we're starting to navigate that right now with our 4-year-old, even thinking of showing her or having her think, okay, so if your friend is doing the wrong thing, do you think you should have also done the wrong thing? What could you have done instead? Maybe say, no, let's go play something different or something like that. So this is just minimal right now. I think in the future, I think of what I've been through too. I know my mom, for me, has said to just don't judge, thinking of like don't judge a book by its cover. And I think of my experiences that have helped me. I've worked at a shelter, a family shelter, and understanding, and as people that might be in the streets, they're not choosing to be there. Maybe some, I don't know. But I'm not going to judge, but I got to meet families and the struggles that are really difficult. It's not as easy to say, just go find a job and voila, I went and I got it. No, it's not that easy. So as for me now, I want to make sure my child understands that you're not going to look at someone or smell someone and assume things right away. I want them to, yes, understand I wonder why, if there's, yeah, being positive about what we see in the streets and even in our class. Yes.
Being Latina, you bring a unique perspective to your classroom and to our church. How has your heritage, your family, your life influenced the way that you see community, especially when it comes to living with both strengths and challenges?
And first I thought, okay, well, it feels like obvious the language is helpful, that I know Spanish, and half of our families speak Spanish. And then I think culturally, I think we can relate with how we celebrate, how we do things. But I was trying to think a little more of like how my heritage influences in my job. And I was thinking more specifically in my job. So I was thinking recently we didn't have to, we wanted to go, my coworker and I wanted to go to visit a student because she had an accident at school. She broke her arm. And so we wanted to go say hi. And my coworker was very nervous. She says, but can we go to her house? And when I started working at Chandler, we had home visits, and we went, and maybe it was not common for teachers to come visit their students right before school started with a little gift. So many parents were a little uncomfortable, but I think after doing it so much, I felt comfortable that I thought this year, and I was like, I think it's fine. Let's go. They said yes. Let's go. And I think my coworker expected to just kind of like at the door, uh, give the give the flowers and say, "Hope you're fine" outside, but they welcomed us inside, and I thought it's comfortable. I'm comfortable. I feel like um, it's normal. You can come in. And so she's Anglo. My coworker is Anglo, and so this was very. I can tell she was nervous and she wasn't sure what to do. But afterwards, she said, I'm glad and I'm very grateful. We went, we learned a lot, even though we didn't talk about what we saw. And we saw that this family lived with another family in a very small home. And that took me back to when we did our home visits at Chandler. We saw how our families, our students lived. And so that gave us an understanding of how they might wake up tired, or they may be cranky because they don't have their own space, things. So that was very, very helpful for us, and for me to be able to go with my coworker. And so I was thinking, yes, we do have a lot of Latinos in Goshen community schools. A lot of these teachers have been working here, so they understand cultural differences, but still there are some teachers that don't. And so I am also reminding teachers, well, not all Latinos feel comfortable downloading all these applications and reading everything every single day, where you're reminding them what to do. So just maybe send a paper with visuals so that they don't have to read so much. It's not typical for them to check. Even me as a parent, I have so much. So finding ways to help out families and giving workshops to families to guide them to how can they help their child at home, because they don't know. They're not professional teachers either. We can't expect them to know and read our notes and have them take it home and keep working the same way we would as even parents that have more education.
And the last question, what gives you hope for our church as we embrace both weeds and wheat within this community? And what has helped you feel at home here?
And you did mention a little bit about how we're in a diverse church, and I wrote, so it's not just even like the color, the differences we have, the languages, but we have many perspectives, many journeys that have been walked, and when we sit together, we sing and pray together, and most importantly, we are respectful and kind to each other. And so that's helped me feel comfortable here, and I just hope it continues.
Well, thank you so much, Daisy. Daisy is a part of the worship commission here at North Goshen, and so we've been planning for Advent and Christmas stuff, and she's had a lot of great ideas to bring to what we'll be doing here in the next few weeks. So thank you again, Daisy.
Thank you.
So it is in these shared moments that I think we catch glimpses of God's kingdom breaking through. In the messy, tangled fields of our lives, in the courage to stay and nurture what grows, and in the radical patience that calls us to love. May we take with us the reminder that we are all both weeds and wheat, and that God's work among us is slow and mysterious and beautiful. So let us commit to being a community that resists quick judgments, that chooses compassion over control, and that trusts in the transformative power of God's love. Please join me in prayer. Loving God, you see every part of our tangled lives, our struggles, our hopes, and our imperfections. Help us to live with patience and grace, to nurture what is good and holy even when it's hard, and to resist the urge to judge too quickly. May we be a people who stay, who love, who trust in your work among us. Thank you for the many gifts of community, for the courage to face the mess together, and for the hope of a harvest we can scarcely imagine. In your name we pray. Amen.
I will sing with you, my family, will you sing with me? I will sing with you, my family, will you sing with me? The notes won't always come out as I'd like, but I will learn to sing along in my own time. God, I surrender. Bring us together. Bring us together. I will sing with you, my neighbor, will you sing with me? I will sing with you, my neighbor, will you sing with me? My words will be imperfect, but I'll try. Bringing my assumptions to the light, I pray. God, I surrender. Bring us together. Bring us together. I will sing with you, my rival, will you sing with me? I will sing with you, my rival, will you sing with me? Difference is a place where God is found. In seeking peace, we're walking on to holy ground. God, we surrender. Bring us together. Bring us together. We will sing our song together, sing in harmony. We will sing our song together, whether two or three. Jesus feels our pain, he sets us free. The Spirit's giving us this song of hope to sing. God, we surrender. Bring us together. Bring us together. Bring us together. Bring us together.
I don't know if any of you had your Voices Together books open for that song, but if it hasn't been pointed out recently, that song was written by Nathan Grieser, Donna Smucker's grandson. So, nice North Goshen connection. But it's time for sharing time. So if you have any joys or concerns to bring to us this morning, Daisy will bring the microphone around. And I'll remind you that this part of worship is not recorded, just to keep things private from the community beyond this space.
Let's stand. Sing a new world into being, sound a bold and hopeful theme. Find a tune for silent yearnings, your voice and dare to dream. Dream a church where all who worship find their lives and loves belong. Sing a new world into being, sing as Christ inspires your song. Sing a new world into being, where each gender, class, and race brings its rainbow gifts and colors to God's limitless embrace, where the lines that once divided form instead the ties that bind. Sing a new world into being, rest transforming hearts and mind. Sing a new world into being, where the homeless find a home, where no children ever hunger, but are filled with God's shalom, where all people work for justice, where all hate and vengeance cease. Sing a new world into being, raise the harmonies of peace. Sing a new world into being, join the ancient prophets' cry, for a time of health and plenty, when all tears have been wiped dry, when compassion flows like waters pouring over all who grieve. Sing a new world into being, live the promise you believe.
And I invite you to hear this blessing as you go out from here today. May you go from here with patience and courage, trusting that God is at work in the messiness of our lives, nurturing hope, grace, and the promise of transformation. Go in peace.